solve their doubts and get into the college and job of their dreams. So thank you so much. We are so glad to have you here today. So a little bit about Mehul. Mehul is a software engineer at Google and a brain-computer interaction researcher, having previously held research positions at MIT Media Lab and Spotify. She was also awarded the ABIE Student of Vision Award in 2017 for her various efforts towards mentorship of women in tech. She holds an ME in computational science from Harvard University with a focus in AI and a bachelor's in computer science from Manipal University. You are truly an inspiration, and we are so fortunate to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me and for this great idea of having a 24-hour fundraiser. I'm glad that I'm able to contribute to it. And I hope we are able to raise a lot of money and help a lot of people.
Yes, we've actually raised more than 20,000 rupees over the past week or so. That is actually 5,000 more than our initial goal.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. So without any further ado, let's get started with our session with with the first question. So what do you believe in your profile stood out and got you the dream admission at Harvard?
That's an interesting question. So at this point, I can only guess based off of my experience. There's no way for me to know for sure. But I think there's a couple of elements. One was definitely the academic record. I think something that universities here look for is a good fit. And that's something that I've seen to be a common theme across jobs and universities here. So when you say what's a good fit, it's basically, this is the role that I have, and is this person skilled enough? Or is this person passionate enough to be to succeed in this role? And that can involve a couple of things. So in my case, I think it was the research experience that I had. It was the statement of purpose that I wrote, where I was able to convince the professors that I was a good fit for that particular program. So my program was a master's in computational science, which was 1 year of coursework and then 1 year of research. So I had done advanced coursework even in undergrad, as well as with JEE preparations and all of that. So I could demonstrate that I would succeed at the advanced coursework through grades. And then at the same time, I had some research experience to demonstrate that I could succeed with the research component of the program. So I think it was definitely a combination of both, plus like a strong SOP and letter of recommendations, and then and then good GRE scores as well. I would say that those things are more secondary. But then, yes, it's a safe bet to have good grades and so on, good GRE scores as well. I wouldn't index too much on those. Like sometimes people who don't have great scores also get in, and because they have amazing research experience or project experience. But I think it always helps when you have good grades in this kind of scenario.
So it would be beyond inspirational for us high school students to listen to the 3 stages of your life, beginning from school all the way through college, both in India as well as the US, and then landing a job at Google, which is like a dream job for any software engineering student. So could you talk about these 3 stages of your life, how similar or how different they were, and what were the key learnings you got from them?
Yeah. I think definitely there's a lot of rolling learnings that I've gotten repeatedly in my life. One very big learning was that to not run after perfection. I would say when I was in school, I think your worldview is very limited because you're competing with the same set of people all the time. So oftentimes we get stuck in that kind of competition. Like some of the things that I learned about myself when I was in school was the kind of things that I had interest in. I mean, if you're good at academics, there's a chance that you're probably studying every subject and you're scoring good grades in every subject. So that's where I had to push myself a little extra through, whether it was Olympiads or it was science fairs. to figure out what I really enjoyed. Did I enjoy participating in debates more, or did I enjoy participating in science fairs more? If I enjoyed both, was there a common place which was there like specific types of things or types of science fairs that I enjoyed? So for me, I think I really enjoyed participating in cyber Olympiads. I remember when we used to have computer science classes in school, and the teacher would give us a problem. I would try to solve it in different ways. That's where I realized that a lot of people were really many times learning the coded solution for the exam, versus where I was trying to come up with my own solutions and devise my own algorithms and push myself further and try to build more things, which I wasn't doing for some of the other subjects that I was studying. So that's where I realized, okay, well, maybe this is something that I have interest in. So it was a bit of trial and error that I applied to get there. And then similarly, like in my undergrad, when I started, I think it was a similar trend, where again, it's computer science is such a diverse field. It can get very confusing very quickly. And there are so many things happening. There are so many buzzwords. For example, when I was in undergrad, machine learning and AI used to be, everyone wanted to get into AI. But then AI is such a huge field, and I didn't know at that time. So I was trying to always like read up other people's research or blogs and things like that, trying to figure out what part of AI I'm actually interested in. So, and then same for grad school. I think grad school again is so tough that that kind of forces you to put yourself in a mindset where you have to figure out what is that one problem that you want to solve or want to spend the next year or 2 years of your life trying to solve. So something that has been a common theme and common learning is what is that one problem that and challenge that I want to solve right now. And there could be tens of things that you want to do, but that's where you have to apply a bit of trial and error and figure out what do I want to invest my time in right now, where I will get a sense of fulfillment. At the same time, I will be able to push my skills and learn something more while at it. So that has been my biggest learning throughout the different phases of my life. And then, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, don't run after perfection. Somebody at Google on my team says that a job perfection is the enemy of good, and I have really come to believe that. Even when we were in grad school and you're trying to publish against a deadline or trying to send in a paper, or you have a presentation tomorrow, and then you're still thinking, oh well, I could have done 10 more things to make this a perfect presentation. But at that time, what you need to do is to get it done first, get it out of the door, and then think about iterating over it. So it's always better to iterate over your solution than to aim for the perfect solution in the first go. So that's the other big learning that I've had in my life.
Definitely, I can completely relate when you said that understanding is the key to knowing if you're actually interested in something. I think it's the same thing for me because I'm someone who delves extremely deep into something as soon as I get like even a minor interest in something. So I think as a high school student myself, that's a really great learning. So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And for our next question, did you feel the college prepared you for the workforce and the real world? So in what ways did Harvard or Manipal prepare you for future jobs or internships?
Yeah. So I think Manipal, the curriculum was very much geared towards making you employable. So the course structure and the design of courses semester wise was such that you would touch a little bit of everything that was required to be in the workforce. So I really appreciate their curriculum from that perspective. Like they taught us the languages, for example, C++ and then Java, and then the courses that they taught us, they really prepared you for the kind of jobs that are out there. And plus, I felt like there were enough opportunities even outside of classroom. For example, I was part of a couple of clubs which were really bringing people together and teaching them how to code. So a bunch of things that I picked up, which I wouldn't have learned in class, I picked up through these other clubs and stuff. So I really appreciated their environment because they allowed all these clubs to really formulate and thrive, and to conduct really massive events. And we used to have frequent hackathons as well, which was personally I found those to be very helpful because a lot of times you get stuck into academia and you don't venture out on your own. So hackathons are a great opportunity to do that, at least in my experience. So definitely, I would say that prepared me for the workforce pretty well. And then, of course, I would say the peers that you have in college plays a very important role as well, or even at school. I think if your peers are pushing themselves, then that really encourages you to push themselves. And I really believe in the power of a healthy competition. I think if everyone around you is really doing something, and this is something which I noticed at Harvard as well. There were 8 of us writing the master's thesis. Everyone else was in the academic track. We were in the research track. So the 8 of us, everyone was researching in something that I had no clue about. And just talking to them gave me so many ideas about how I could apply some of the solutions they were applying to their problems to the problem that I was trying to solve. So the quality of peers plays a huge role in your own development, even more so than I would say the curriculum does, and prepares you well for the kind of jobs that you're looking for. And at Harvard, again, like I would say, the pace was so fast, and the problems used to be so difficult, and the curriculum used to be so much that really prepared me for life at Google. I would say, because Google is, again, it requires you. I mean, there's a sometimes you have to put in a lot of hours when you're trying to push against a deadline or things like that. So I would say that, yeah, my college experiences have definitely prepared me pretty well for the workforce. Yeah.
Definitely. And also, you were speaking about clubs in Manipal. So, you founded 2 clubs in your time at Manipal, Women Tech
Yeah.
Makers and the Spectacular Female. So, what was your inspiration behind starting these?
Yeah. I think one very big thing which I noticed was, so I was in my first year and I had gone for this competition. It was a coding contest. And at that time, I wasn't the best coder. I barely knew how to code in C++. I didn't know any of the hacks that you could, that work well for people typically in these kinds of contests, but I still managed to clear the first round. And then they called me back for the second round, and I realized that there were maybe 10 or 12 people in the room, and I was the only girl there. And so when I was entering the room, and I was a first year at this point, so it was very weird for people to, at least it seemed to me that they didn't expect a first year female student to be present there. And somewhere that really affected me. And also, even while going to these contests, I would try to encourage my hostel mates and friends to come with me. And I would see that they would just not be that interested, and many times not that confident that they would perform well. So they would just not go at all. And same goes for hackathon. I had maybe one friend in first year who wanted to go for a hackathon, and then everyone else would just be like, "Oh, it's either a waste of time," or they were like, "Oh, I don't know enough." And that's a common theme as you grow up in your career. You'll also start noticing these things. I hope it's different for your generation, but then at least, yeah, with me, I definitely noticed that there was a big confidence issue, and there was a big risk taking issue that I was noticing amongst the women in my classroom. So one primary motivation of starting Women Tech Makers as well as Spectacular Female was just trying to make sure that these women are coming out and they feel like there's a safe space where they can compete against each other, and then prepare themselves for bigger contests which have men as well. Because if that's the problem, where you're feeling intimidated by the presence of all these people who you think are much better than you, then let's have a safe space where you can practice on this thing first, and then come together and build your resume, work on some projects. Because when you're choosing to not go to a contest or to a hackathon, you're also losing out on an opportunity to build something or create something new or add something new to your resume. So we wanted to provide that opportunity to these women to do that if you, whether you need an academic circle or you need a building group, this is a place where you can have that. And the Spectacular Female was in a similar vein, where I was trying to collect interviews of people of women who've been successful in their fields, and then also provide like a mentorship end point where people can see, okay, well, this is something that I aspire to be, and this woman has already done it. So this path has been charted. So you shouldn't feel like you're trying to reinvent the wheel at that point. And it's possible, it's done. There are challenges. It's going to be challenging personally, professionally, but it's not impossible. Yeah.
Definitely, I feel female empowerment is so important. I myself have an organization which is a Girl Up chapter. So I am actually the president and co-founder of Girl Up Kolkata. So I completely agree when you say that even giving a small boost of confidence to these young women goes an extremely long way in deciding what they do in future. So I think that
Yeah.
was really, really great.
That's great to hear that you're running a Girl Up chapter, and I'm sure you'll encounter similar. I'm curious to know more about. We can connect offline about this as well, but curious to know more about what some of the challenges you're facing and how you're solving it as well. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, how do Harvard and other prestigious universities in the US differ from from the Indian education system, specifically the Manipal University, in terms of, say, student life, opportunities, and opportunities to work in the research field, particularly?
Yeah. So I would say with between Manipal and Harvard, I definitely felt a huge change of pace. Um, at Harvard, I felt like if I didn't study or put in some hours every day, it would be very difficult for me to pass the end term or midterm, whatever. So it definitely required a lot more structured approach to how I was acquiring information. At Manipal, I felt like I could relax a little bit more. I had more free time to pursue some of the other things that I wanted. At Harvard, a lot of things that I pursued were through my coursework because I barely had time outside of those. Um, Other than that, I would say at Harvard, I felt like the environment was a little bit less formal. For example, I could walk up to my teacher and at any hour of the day and basically ask them for help on any of the challenge that it was a bit more. I felt more in control and responsible for charting my own path. At Manipal, of course, it was a more structured learning system itself. So the coursework itself was given to me. So there wasn't much flexibility there, as it tends to happen a lot of times in India, where the curriculum is given to you, and then sometimes you get an opportunity to pick electives and things like that. So that's what the coursework at Manipal was like. At Harvard, I picked all the courses that I wanted to study. It was my responsibility to pick the ones that I needed for my research. So it was completely in my control. So those were big differences. In terms of research, I definitely felt like Manipal had a better hackathon culture, I would say. It had a better building culture where everyone was trying to come and build products or were more business oriented. I felt that a lot of people were trying to do startups and things like that. At Harvard, I definitely felt like it was more research oriented. So my peers were very much more interested in publishing, putting out quality research, getting into PhDs, as compared to trying to build a product and things like that. So that was another big difference, I would say. Yeah.
All right. So, just speaking about the differences about the two universities, do you think that this difference lies because of their competitive or collaborative nature?
Yeah, I definitely think that I definitely felt like Harvard was a little bit more competitive, but I wouldn't say Manipal wasn't competitive. I think it was competitive. Like I mentioned, it was competitive in different ways. At Manipal, people were trying to build more of products, so things would get competitive there in the hackathon space quite a bit, and in the competitive coding space as well. But I mean, I've met some of the best competitive coders so far at Manipal, and they were very, very good. Uh, at Harvard, I think I met a lot of researchers who were publishing at very high quality journals. So yeah, I think they were both competitive in different ways. I think the difference was because of the culture of the two places. I feel like Manipal is Of course, it's Indian, so it's an Indian university, so it's very deeply rooted in the way education system is in India. And that's to say that, there's a certain barrier between a student and a teacher. There are certain things that are not as flexible. Like you can't sit in the lab for 24 hours, which at Harvard I was doing frequently. At Manipal, I didn't have that option. So there are more barriers, more structures at place in Manipal, I would felt, which is what very much drawn from the kind of culture that we come from as well. And in the US, I feel like things are more free and you are responsible for your own good. So at the same time, nobody else feels responsible for your career, which was also like in the beginning, it can be a little challenging to wrap your head around. So I think the difference was more cultural, I would say. Yeah.
All right. And while you were at Manipal, how did you manage your academics, extracurricular activities, the two clubs you started, your personal projects, research work, and simultaneously giving competitive exams like the GRE?
Yeah, I think at that point it was, now that I look back, the curriculum was definitely huge. Um, but then, yeah, I think the important thing there is to segment your time to figure out what are things that are important to you. So I think at different points, at the beginning, I was focusing very much on academics and trying to figure out, or trying to make sure that I had gotten that part of the experience right. Because I think with any experience, it takes you a while to ramp up and get used to the pace and things like that. So I spent maybe the first semester trying to just do that. And then later, as I went to second year, I started focusing more on, yes, there was the coursework and I had to spend time on the assignments and things like that. But then I also wanted to prioritize being a good coder. And that involved like putting some hours aside every week to become better at competitive coding or participate in contests. And then I think as I went higher in third and fourth year, I was very much hackathon oriented. So I prioritized becoming better at those. So I think, yeah, like every other thing, you have to figure out what are the things, challenges that you're trying to solve, and then break it down and try to allot time to each of those things accordingly. So yeah, and it's not something that can happen overnight. You have to, these are long term plans that you can make. But yeah, I think the important thing is for you to be able to break it down and allot some time to each of those individually. Yeah.
Definitely. I think everyone should prioritize what's important and then go on with their schedule, as you just said. So I think that's a really great tip for anyone who wants to set off in a similar direction. So my next question is, how important would you say networking is in getting selected to reputed schools like Harvard for further studies or getting jobs at big MNCs?
Yeah, I think networking is definitely, the way I look at networking is really just trying to form a support system. I think networking is definitely important. For instance, I'll give you an example. When I moved to the Bay Area for my after Harvard, I felt like in the beginning, and it was maybe 4 months or 6 months before the pandemic had started. So I found myself to not know as many people, or I knew people, but like I had no one to hang out with and things like that. So that's when I realized, or like I found that the network that I had built over the years was important in that sense, because like they were the people who were messaging me and trying to keep in touch and things like that. And it wasn't, even though these were my professional contacts, at that point we were talking at a very personal level about just making sure that each one is okay and things like that. So I look at it as trying to form a support system, and I also feel more genuine about it when I do that. And I definitely think that it's important. I wouldn't say in my case it wasn't so important in getting into Harvard or Google, but I definitely think it augments the experience. For example, once you get to Harvard or Google, it always helps if you have that network and that support system to kind of push you through the experience, because these experiences can get tough very quickly. So I think that's where the network can be really, really helpful. But yeah, it's very important to build a network, but at the same time, it shouldn't come at the cost of your skill. So I think both of those go parallelly, and different approaches work for different one when it comes to networking. For me, the approach that works is trying to think of them as my friends and my support system, and then also being present when they need that support system.
For sure. I mean, networking has great benefits. It's the way I contacted you and organize this whole fundraiser. So I think for me as well, networking has been extremely crucial and just helped me build an extremely um, collaborative community. So moving on to the next question, what advice would you have for someone setting out in a similar direction, maybe wanting to apply to the same college or pursuing the same career, like in computer science or becoming like a software engineer?
Yeah, I think one advice that I have is try to find, like I mentioned earlier as well, try to find what you really want to do and what speaks to you. There can be at any point of time many different opportunities, and it can get confusing because maybe all your friends are doing this one thing, but then you might not be sure if you really want to do that or not. So at that point, spend some time maybe like interning in that domain or doing a project in that domain to really figure out if this is something you want to do. And then, like for instance, even when I was in undergrad, everyone was like doing web development workshops. So then I spent one summer just trying to build websites and seeing, is this something that I really enjoyed? And I realized that while I did learn what I wanted to out of that, that's not something that I really enjoyed doing. So then next time I went and tried with some app development and seeing if I enjoyed that. So I think it's important to figure out what speaks to you, because that's the way you'll, and the way that our generation is, I think we can really do something for a long term if you really enjoy it. So it's important to find that thing that you really enjoy before you decide to build a career in it. Or even while you're building a career, you have to keep asking yourself that question iteratively, that do I really enjoy this? Is this something that I find worthwhile? Is this something that gets me out of bed every morning and makes me want to do this? So these are important questions that you need to ask yourself, because that determines the longevity of that thing that you're doing. So, yeah.
That is such great advice. I mean, I can't really imagine doing something for such a long time, having a job which I don't really enjoy, because unless and until you have a passion for something, I don't really think you'll be able to do that successfully. And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned it really, you explained that part extremely well.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
moving on to the next question. So these questions are related to being a software engineer in Google. So
Mhm.
I've actually been to the Google office in Menlo Park, and it was an amazing experience, even though I went there 5 years ago. So I was actually 10 then. So they let us ride around the office in bikes, and there were, the big Google logo is everywhere in vibrant colors. So I can't even
Right.
imagine what it is like being an employee there. We see all these YouTube videos with people just showing around the office, showing the food there. So I just want to know what it is like to be an employee in such a dreamy company.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. You get to be and work with a lot of very smart people, which, like I mentioned before, it's always great to surround yourself with people who are doing great things. So that part is amazing. Of course, like all the free perks and food is very exciting. Over time, you kind of tend to use it less and less, but it's definitely very exciting to see all the food and all the the swings and all the cool things around you. It definitely makes for a fun experience. Sometimes we've had meetings on like those really big chairs in the lawns, or like just walking around and things like that. So I like how flexible they are with these kinds of things as compared to the traditional corporate culture where it's very boardroom meetings type things. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to be at Google, and the depending on the work that you're doing, of course that really augments the experience as well, I would say. So the fact, if you're working on a really cool product, or that's really cutting edge at the at the edge of technology, then that's even more exciting. So it's a great augmented experience, I would say. Yeah.
For sure, actually, the YouTube vlog which I had watched, they were having a meeting while skateboarding. So I think it's just really, really cool that they're trying to just break the concept of staying in a room, sitting on chairs, and having a meeting. So I think that's
Right,
a
for
really
sure.
great initiative by Google.
Yeah, yeah.
So I aspire to be a computer science student, and it can be a little difficult to choose what to learn next because computer science has very diverse applications. So how do you make a decision on what to learn next and stick to it until you're proficient? So what advice would you have on that?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, just try your hand at it for some time. Maybe like time box it and give yourself maybe a month or a few weeks, and try building something in that, and then see if you enjoy the initial stages or what parts of that stage are you enjoying. For example, like I mentioned, building the website, even that has so many different components. So I realized that I liked doing the part where I'm sending requests to a backend and then the requests are being served by the server and things like that. So I enjoyed that part much more than designing the what the website looked like. And that could be different for different people. I have friends who really enjoy working on the front end and they don't really enjoy the back end stuff that much. So I think even while you're working on these projects, try to figure out what are the parts that you're enjoying, and then once you see it, then you can choose that thing to delve deeper into. For example, if I enjoy more backend, I tried learning more of JavaScript as compared to maybe some of the front end stuff. So yeah, I think that's what I would recommend. That while you're at this project, be insightful about what are the things that you're enjoying, and then try to delve deeper into that stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. That sounds really great. So thank you so much. And could you please briefly explain the interview process you had to go through during your placement at Google? So was it through Harvard, like an on-campus placement, or was it off-campus?
Yeah. So for Google, we did apply. So we have career fairs at Harvard, which you can apply through. So I applied through one of those, and then the recruiter contacted me later. I had an online screening first, which is basically an online test that they'll send you, and you have to finish it in around 90 minutes, if I remember correctly. Once that gets done, then you have phone screenings where they'll ask you questions on the phone and you have to solve those on either a Google Doc or some other platform that they're using. So you have to write out the solution, explain your solution to the whoever's taking your interview. After that, if you cross these rounds, then they'll call you on site for the interview. Um, so that there I had about 5 interviews in one day, and then they are back to back. It's a very tiring day, but then they are basically like 5 people trying to assess whether you're a good fit for Google and you have the right skills for the job that you're applying for. And then at the end of the 5 days, at the end of the 5 interviews, they'll take about 2 weeks to tell you whether you got in or you didn't. So yeah, that's the process.
All right. I actually had interviewed someone from Google earlier as well, and they were mentioning about something called googliness as a factor in getting the job. So for them, it was about self-realization, actually telling them how their contribution to the company would be. So what do you think was the googliness factor for you?
Yeah, I think for me it was definitely I mean I would say it's a bunch of things. It's definitely how proactive you are when you're faced with a new challenge. Do you take it on? What's your approach? How do you solve it? And that's something they try to assess even through interviews, whether it's a coding question or it's a more HR type question. Um, at the same time, it was about Google. One of the pillars at Google is diversity and inclusion. So I had definitely had a lot of experience there. Then there were leadership, which again I had some experience with. If you have demonstrated that through your work, then that's also something that they factor in. So it's for me, I would say Googliness was like a bunch of a combination of all these different things: leadership skills, at the same time proactiveness towards learning, and so on. So yeah.
Wow, that sounds really great. And it's actually extremely different from what I've heard from other people. So I think Googling that for everyone is very different. And I think that's a really nice thing.
Mm.
So, what unseen opportunities did you see that resulted in making your career what it is now?
Hmm. I think it was for me, it was less of the unseen opportunity. It was more of convincing myself that I was ready for this opportunity. I think even when I was applying to Harvard, most of my friends weren't. And a lot of times people have this perception about certain universities or certain opportunities that, and women tend to have that imposter syndrome a lot more, where they try to convince themselves that they're probably not right for something. So I was definitely experiencing all of that. But yeah, I think a little bit of fact checking, a little bit of reorienting myself, understanding what my skills were, really helped me figure out that that opportunity was right for me. So I think for me, it was less of noticing an unseen opportunity. It was more of realizing that I was ready for this opportunity that I wanted. So yeah.
Definitely, I think self-realization is extremely important. It just helps you know yourself better and know what you're good at and you're actually passionate about much, much better.
Right.
So, what aspects of your job do you find the most rewarding and the most challenging?
Yeah, I think the rewarding part is, I would say two things. One is that what I'm building reaches people directly. And that's something that I really enjoy, to see that people are actually using the thing that I'm building. The second bit is, of course, being able to code every day. That's the thing that I really enjoy doing. And I'm really grateful that I get to do that on a daily basis. So those are the most rewarding things about my job, I would say.
Wow. So, is there anything you wish you had known when you had started out learning computer science, maybe in high school when your interest in computer science had just sparked?
Yeah, I would say one thing which I wish I had known was to, or like I wouldn't say that I had known. I think I figured it out eventually, but there's always going to be hype about something. But then I think the way you choose your career has to be at the intersection of what you really enjoy as well as what makes you money. So, because like in the long term, that's I mean, the goal of having a career for most people is to be able to sustain themselves financially. So I think it's definitely a cross between the two. And like I mentioned, for the first one, which is figuring out what you like, it has to be, at least for me, it was a trial and error method. For the second part, you have to keep an eye out for the trends and the hype and the buzzwords, and then, but also like try to dig deep and find out what they're actually about. For example, there's a lot of startups that say that they're machine learning, uh, or like they want to be machine learning, but they're not there yet. So at that point, you have to make a call and figure out, is this something that I want to do, or is that something that I don't want to do? So just keep asking yourself those questions. What makes you money? Plus, like, what is something that you're really interested in? And that's how I feel like I wish somebody had told me that at the beginning itself, that sometimes it's easier to get stuck in the hype of things. But then that's where you have to like be more insightful and read more and educate yourself more about these kinds of things. Yeah.
For sure, I think it is human tendency to be attracted towards what's the hype. Say, for example, I think a year back, Dalgona coffee was the hype. So I remember this is just an extremely vague example of how people were getting so obsessed with that, and how even though it wasn't really nice for a lot of people, they were just delving deeper and getting into the thing. So I think that is exactly what the message is about, how you should not just do anything because it's trending and just do what is actually interesting you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what do you think are the most effective strategies for seeking a role in your field?
Mm, I think that computer science has so many opportunities at this point. It's really about you having to pick, or you making that choice based on what you enjoy. Like I mentioned again, like longevity is something that we should be thinking about. And yeah, I think there's, for a computer scientist, we are lucky in the sense that there's plenty of opportunities everywhere. Pretty much every single field has some kind of computer science component that you can enjoy and build a career in. So it's really looking out for those opportunities and figuring out what works best for you. That's a better strategy, because there are so many jobs that you can do. You will get something or the other anyway. So it's at that point you have to make a call. What is the opportunity that you want, and then work towards that, I would say. Yeah.
Definitely. So I just have a few questions related to CVs now. So from your understanding, what roles should high school students, say students like me in class 10, looking to admit themselves into prestigious companies or universities, do to build their CVs or profiles? So do they look for extracurricular, or is work experience the key?
Yeah, I would say that when you're applying to grad school, or they definitely look for a whole package of things. I would say a lot of times your extracurriculars and things like that, they help you with some soft skills that are difficult to acquire otherwise. For example, if you are running a fundraiser, you have some leadership experience, just contacting people, organizing things. So that speaks to your ability to be able to manage something. And that will lead, of course, like if you do it enough times, they will be convinced that you have that kind of experience, you have the necessary experience that's required to thrive in that kind of an environment where you're trying to organize things, manage things. Similarly, if somebody is doing a lot of Olympiads or building a lot of things, then that speaks to their ability to um, be able to build a new technology pretty quickly. That's another factor, I would say. So, yeah, I think when you're in high school and maybe early undergrad, or I would say high school, then the whatever experience that you get, that counts. And it may seem like it's not counting immediately, but these are things that compound over time, and they really speak to your ability of what are some of the core skill sets that you have. So yeah, at this point, just focus on working on as many opportunities as you can, and at the same time trying to figure out which one of those you really enjoying, and do more of those kinds of things, I would say. Yeah.
Definitely. And also just one question, a follow-up question on this. So say, for example, I'm doing a multitude of different internships in different fields, say something related to graphic designing or something related to social media management. So do you think I should mention them on my CV, even though they are not related to the major I'm applying for?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps to put it somewhere. If it's not directly related, then put it as an additional skills at the bottom, uh, wherein you're mentioning that this is the leadership experience. If you had something very significant, like raising X amount of money for a fundraiser, then definitely put it somewhere in the resume. Even if it might not be directly related, it speaks to some of the other skills that you have. And people want to be around well-rounded individuals in general, and you'll notice that later in life as well. But yeah, it's always helpful to put that somewhere in your resume. Yeah.
So that is really great to know. And you just mentioned about well-rounded individuals. So when I speak about that from, say, a profile perspective, so is it better to position yourself as a generalist or a specialist on your resume? So like a jack of all trades, or maybe like a king of a specific trade?
Yeah, I think that would again depend on what you're applying for. If you're applying for a major, then in my experience, like they've definitely let both kinds of people in. So there are plenty of people who are good at multiple things. But then, yeah, make sure that even when you're good at multiple things, you are doing things which have high impact. I think that really counts. So if you've done 5 things, all of which had like decent or to medium impact, then that's great. At the same time, if you're the kind of person who has like really pushed and went, acquired AIR1 in some Olympiad, then that also counts. So I have definitely seen a mix of both kinds of people at both Google as well as Harvard. So yeah, I think whichever, whether you're a generalist or you're a specialist, just make sure you're trying to do some high impact work. Yeah.
Definitely. So I just had this one last question. So we've heard of this perfect dreamy life employees at Google have, but as Sundar Pichai rightly said, if you don't fail, sometimes you're not being ambitious enough. So were there moments in your life where you were down, and how did you bounce back from these tough patches in life?
Yeah, I think I've had many failures in my life, I would say. And after a while, you kind of get used to it. I think the way our education system is set up for the